Hi and welcome yet again to the Beer Temple. I am Chris Quinn and I am joined again by my lovely wife, Margaret Quinn.
Hi everyone.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
You kind of had no choice because you were in the part one.
Right.
And now you're here part two.
Part two. This is a big show.
Yeah, this should be a really fun show. So this is part two. We're going through all the Trappist doubles. We talked quite a bit about the Trappist brand, I guess you would call it, in the first show. So if you haven't seen that already, check that out. But this is part two. So without further ado, I think we should just kind of pop into it. Real quick, you know, Trappist beers are brewed under the supervision of Trappist monks. There are, I think, 7 Trappist breweries, and 6 of them make doubles. Orval, which was the subject of the first episode of the Beer Temple ever, only makes Orval, more or less. I think they might make an Abbey-only beer every once in a while. But the others do have doubles. Double is a style of Belgian ale that is very closely associated with the Trappists. I'd say double and triple are really kind of Trappists, or Trappist styles. So we figured, hey, why not just get every double made by a Trappist brewery side by side and go through them.
Try them all, yeah.
Try them all. I think we both agreed that the Accl was the surprise of the first round. We both really liked it. It was nice. Yeah,
it really was nice, and I agree. I mean, it was a surprise. I don't know much about Accl. I didn't know much about Accl, so I was pleasantly surprised. You know, that was my favorite one on the show.
So here today we have Rochefort, Trappe, and Westvleteren, and their doubles. And the first one we're going to do is the Trappist Rochefort 8. This is from the Abbey Saint Remy, is where it's brewed, near Rochefort, which is a town in Belgium, like we mentioned in the last episode. A lot of them just take the name of the town. So it's Rochefort 8. People often ask what those numbers mean. A lot of Belgian beers or Abbey Trappist style beers, you know, just go by numbers. So St. Bernardus also does it. Westvleteren, Rochefort, you know, it's just Rochefort 6, 8, and 10. It's kind of an antiquated style. It's basically how much sugar is in the original liquid that they make the beer from, and that has an indication of how strong the final product will be. So for those of you who know kind of gravity readings, the way you can do it is basically just take the numbers after the decimal point in your gravity. So it's 1, basically it's how thick is your water, let's say, is your liquid. Water has a gravity of 1. So that's the standard, basically. Anything under 1 is going to be thinner than water. Anything over it will be heavier than water. So this is 1 point, and then it's 06. So it's the next 2 numbers after the point. So if it's 06, it's 6. If it's 08, it's 8. If it's 10, it's 10.
Sure.
Or 12 they have in this case. So that's what the number means. You can actually get beers, though. Some of those really light lagers and the diet beers can get under 1. So they are lighter. It's like drinking water. Actually, it's like drinking less than water.
That's insane.
Yeah, they can get under 1.
Wow, that's almost impressive. That's a technological feat, if you will, in a sad way. But I had also heard, as far as like the 8, 10, 6, 10, 8, 10. 5, 6, 7, 8.
No. And 5, 6, 7, 8.
No, I had also heard that I think you used to be able to kind of use that as a gauge of the ABV.
Well,
it sort of maps very closely to it.
They're roughly related.
Yeah.
It's not really. It's just how much sugar you start with will oftentimes show you how much alcohol you have at the end. But it's not really that close. So this is the Rochefort 8, it's 9.2% alcohol.
Right. And that's what I think. And I'd heard, like, historically, it tracked a little closer to the ABV. Although they said maybe they just weren't that good at measuring ABV either. You know. So we've come a long way in that respect.
And I think a lot of them also did alcohol by weight. which is measured a little bit differently. How much of that weight is the alcohol? And it comes out to a different number than alcohol by volume, so it might also track closer to that.
True. Yeah. Interesting.
But this is the Rochefort 8. All the Rocheforts have a very similar grain. It's very the recipe is the same for 6, 8, and 10. A lot of it is how much adjunct they put in, and they might add a little bit more malt, but it's very, very similar. They just kind of are bigger, bolder versions of each one. This is the 8. This is right in the middle, and what Americans would probably consider closest to the double. You know, much less than Americans, Belgians don't really care about style. They just say, this is our beer. You want to call it a double? Fine. I mean, some of them label it as a double. Some are just say, this is the 8. You want to call it a double? Go ahead.
Whatever, yeah. This is a little cloudier than I would have expected.
Yeah, the other thing I should say is, you know, again, these beers age wonderfully. I believe that this beer is, oh boy, 1 to 2 years old. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the best about labeling my bottles, and I haven't really taken the time to figure out the Rochefort bottling code. But yeah, a little bit you know, dark, a little hazy, big suds.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of carbonation, and it really sticks around pretty well too.
Yeah.
I'm getting a pretty rich, creamy, toffee-like nose to it.
I'm also getting a lot of fruit on it as well. You know, like, I think in a previous episode we had talked about a grape soda type quality. I definitely get like a grape soda.
Yeah. If you, it's funny if you kind of just let it like.
Maybe even like a Jolly Rancher or something. It's weird.
If you just breathe in lightly, I get much more of the caramel and toffee. If I take a nice big, I'm getting a lot more of the fruit of the fruit. That's how she, imagine taking that out to a restaurant, because that's how she smells wine, beer, anything.
Completely sane.
Smoking. So yeah, I do get more of the fruit as well. I'm getting kind of apples and pears.
Yeah.
A little bit of grape or raisin.
Yeah, pear for sure. I think you're right about that too.
It smells really nice. A little bit of alcohol, but really not overwhelming.
Yeah, just kind of, for me, it's like almost like a cooling sensation.
Yeah.
You know, as you breathe in. I guess that's the alcohol.
And the more I smell it, the more I'm really liking it. There's some graininess, like toffee and fruit, almost like a candy, not a candy apple, like a taffy apple. That you get around. No peanuts though.
No peanuts.
So, yeah, it tastes like it's a couple years old, but it's tasting really nice. There's some nice kind of tawny port qualities to it.
Yeah.
By that I mean, so it's got that kind of raisiny, a little bit musty.
Yeah.
It's not. It's got a little bit of like a honeyed character to it. None of that like wet paper negative oxidation that you get.
I almost get like a savory quality out of it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but do you almost get like a? I feel like it's almost like a little bit like salty or something like that. Maybe it was because I had peanuts on the brain as I was taking the sip, but I felt a little bit like, I don't know, savoriness in this beer.
I'm getting, excuse me, a lot of raisin.
Yeah.
But it's dry too.
Yeah.
So for all this toffee, raisin, apple, this is a dry beer.
Yeah, it really is.
A lot of times, what I don't like about American versions of Belgian beers is they're so often sweeter than the ones I like. Most of these beers are going to be very well attenuated, meaning, you know, the sugar has been fermented out and they end up being dry. This is certainly the case. Pretty, I mean, it leaves your mouth pretty clean. Really all you get at the end is the alcohol. You do get some alcoholic warming, kind of like a warm sensation in your mouth. The dog needs to wander around now. And Yeah, just like kind of like a rum raisin at the end. It's nice.
Yeah,
I like this quite a lot. I mean, this is a world-class beer, I would say. I mean, it's just a ton going on.
Yep, it is. It's really delicious. Rum raisin, I think, is a great descriptor as well. The dog is apparently eating the baseboard at this point. He's found something that's very interesting.
You know what he's doing? I have these little, like, skid slider things on the bottom of the chair so it doesn't... And they're like these felt things with stickers on the bottom, and one of them's coming off. He's trying to eat it. Eat the sticky felt pad.
Sure, he's a smart dog. He's a smart animal.
Yeah.
All right, so as far as rating, what do you think?
95.
Wow, really? I'm not going to go that high. It's good. It's good. It's great. 92.
92. Man, you know what? I'm getting more of that Grape Jolly Rancher when it's empty now.
Yeah.
Man, that's a nice beer. Okay, moving on.
Tasty beverage.
The only big bottle I think we've had in the Trappist shows. What?
I was just thinking about my sniff again. that probably was very ridiculous looking.
It's fine. What do you get to? Trappe, the newest of the Belgian Trappist beers. They were have been brewing for a long time. They were actually kicked out of the Trappist order, and they were available as Koningshoven. So if you'd seen them before, same place. In fact, I think it's the brewery to Koningshoven.
Are they Dutch?
It's on the border.
Right. Okay.
Literally on the border. You walk out one side, you know, you're in the Netherlands. You walk out the other side, you're in Belgium.
Right. That's cool. Yeah, I remember. Well, I mean, Koningshoven, it sounds like a Dutch word, so.
Yeah, but I guess it's considered the Netherlands according to the label.
Right. Right.
They actually had a brewery installed in the Trappist monastery, or built, and then they hired another company to run it for them. And that's why they were kicked out eventually, I'm pretty sure. They were now brought back. They changed their ways. I think they are very much now involved in the brewing, just oversight especially, more so than maybe even some of the other Trappist breweries, just to make sure that, look, we are, you know, taking part of it. Now we are the ones doing it.
Right.
So then they were allowed back into the Trappist order, and that's why they can use La Trappe.
Right.
Because they said, if you're not Trappist, you can't use La Trappe as your name.
That makes sense, yeah. Makes sense. This is a very well bottled beer. Well corked. Woo! It's a party.
Oompa. Oompa, whatever you say. I said oompa, like oompa loompa. Oompa loompa.
Doopity-doo.
Yeah. So, big bottle. Oops.
Yeah, it is big bottle.
Conditioned. The La Trappe makes a lot of very interesting beers. They have an oak-aged quad. They have a wit beer. They are more experimental than the other Trappist breweries.
It's a lot of, well, maybe it's just dying down now, but big head on that beer. It looks like a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great. I mean, that's why a lot of these Trappist beers want to have those big goblets, and they're meant to hold an 11.2 ounce bottle, but if you just poured it in and had no head, there'd be this much space. It's because they're supposed to have this big, huge, fluffy, creamy head to it.
Sure. Well, this certainly fits the bill for that.
Yep. All these beers are bottle conditioned. This one's a little clearer and a little bit kind of dark chestnut brown.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it almost looks like brown butter. You know, a little bit like that. To me,
it's a little more red.
With a little more red in it as well. Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. But just holding it up there, it looks like brown butter to me. Yeah,
and smelling it, this reminds me the most, if memory serves me, similar to the Accl. It's got a lot of that cherry, that candied cherry.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of cherry, but I do get toffee in this as well. Again, maybe kind of using that butter, sticking with that butter analogy. You know, like it's almost like a butteriness, but you know, not in a bad way. You're right. Yeah, not as a defect in the beer, but almost like a, you know, silky, creamy butteriness to it.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of kind of red fruit, a little like candied berries, The underlying malt is pretty clean. Obviously, no hops in any of these beers is going to be present, certainly on the nose. You might get some bitterness in them. And it smells like there's going to be some sweetness.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll tell you. Haha.
So, definitely sweeter, but not a sweet beer. I'd say this is pretty balanced. Really, where you feel the sweetness is in the mouthfeel. It's chewier, it's softer. It does have a little bit of that candied sweet cherry flavor to it. Very nice kind of malt profile as well. Kind of clean, like crystal malt almost, like that kind of biscuity, honeyed biscuit flavor. Yeah,
I could definitely see the honeyed biscuit thing. And again, kind of going back to the butter, I mean, I kind of feel like there's like almost like a saltiness, like a buttery saltiness in this. The biscuit thing, I think is probably a good call on that. Max is he's a free range animal, so
yeah,
he's on the range.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really nice. I'll give it another taste.
I think this one might might take advantage of food a little bit more than as a drink on its own.
Yeah.
It's got a tiny hint of like asperiness on the back end. A little bit sweet. I'm not liking it as much, mainly because of the sweetness, and I don't think it has the complexity of the Rochefort. Still a darn good beer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I really like that dryness in the Rochefort. But yeah, this is good, and I agree. You know, it probably would complement food really well. In fact, all these beers I think are going to complement food really well. It's just a really versatile style. A lot of different things can pair with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go 91 with this beer. I think it's a really good beer. I wouldn't put it up there in like kind of the world class category personally.
I agree. I'll go 90 with it.
Okay. Cool.
And last but not least.
Last but not least is the Westvleteren 8. This beer is, you know, one that you know, it's hard to get.
Yeah.
They really only sell it at the Abbey Westvleteren. You can find it in stores or online through less scrupulous means, but these are, you know, the most kind of hardcore of the hardcore. This is the one brewery where the Trappist monks actually are doing the brewing.
Right.
So I said, you know, usually it does not mean that these monks are doing the brewing. Well, with Westvleteren, more often than not, the monks are doing the brewing. They have the largest commune of monks. They also have the youngest overall commune of monks. Young for a monk is like 60, though. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, what's a young monk?
Yeah, I mean, if you're 50, you're like, you know, a baby.
Right. Wow.
So, very hardcore. They don't have any marketing. They don't do anything. It's just available. They have a phone machine that has a voicemail, and you can listen for when it's going to be available. They're very, very strict about how much you can buy. I've heard they even kind of, you have to register your license plate so you can't come through more times.
Right, yeah, I've heard yeah.
And no labeling.
Right. I think we mentioned this on the last show. No label whatsoever to speak of. No. The only way that you would, you know, distinguish which beer you have is from the cap.
All the information they are legally need to have on there is on the cap.
Yeah.
And it's the name of the actual abbey is Saint Sixtus. And the name, it's near the town of Westvleteren, I think, so it's Westvleteren. And this is the 8. Also, one thing that they do that the others don't, in the first part of the doubles, I talked about how, you know, where does the name double triple come from, and I said, you know, the first runnings are the big rich triple, and then the second are the double. You know, Westmalle we had, there's the inventor of the triple, really, as we know it, but they don't do that anymore. They have separate mashes, one for their triple, one for their double. Again, these guys, they do it. The first runnings are the big brother to this beer, you know, the vaunted Westvleteren 12, considered by many to be, you know, the greatest beer in the world. They then take that same mash, so it's the same recipe, they just run more water through it, and that's when the 8 comes out. A little bit lower gravity, what we would consider to be their double. So this is a pretty special beer. It doesn't just come around all the time.
Well, this one came in a suitcase home with us from Belgium.
So how old is this beer? Like,
well, we just had our 3-year anniversary. We were out there almost probably exactly 3 years ago to the day. So
so it's, let's say, probably 3.5.
Yeah.
Let's say years old. Should be able to stand up.
That's a keeper.
Yeah, this is 8%, so a little bit lower than the 8 and 8%. There you go.
Yeah, you're right.
They nailed it.
Match made in heaven, right there.
Yeah. So we'll see. I remember at the time when we had them both fresh, we preferred the 8 to the 12.
Absolutely, yeah.
But let's see how age. I've heard 12 is supposed to be one of the great aging beers of the world, and we'll see if the 8 kind of holds up to it. So. There you go. Also, I'd like to give a little bit of a pour to Navy Mike, who just cracked a Westvleteren 12 to celebrate him passing the Cicerone Certified Beer Server test.
Oh, cool.
And he said, somewhat in part to kind of the inspiration that this podcast gave him.
Awesome. That's great. Well, cheers to you, Navy Mike. Good for you for passing that test.
Yeah, so you can have the 12. You deserve that. You're the one who actually passed it. We just heard about it on Twitter, so we'll do the 8.
Yeah.
So there you are. A pretty dark beer.
Yeah, it really is.
Really nice and clear, though.
It is.
You can see the ring where the beer had been sitting.
Yeah.
For those of you who want to see the cap, the way you can tell is from the blue. The Westvleteren 12 has a yellow cap, so this is the blue cap.
Yeah, really pretty, like cherry color in it, kind of.
Fine head as well. Very small bubbles.
Yeah, tiny bubbles.
And that's from probably a long time bottle conditioning. Oftentimes you get that real small bubbles, and yeah, clear and like a ruby red color. All right, so. Oxidized.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but it.
Well, it is. Yeah. I mean, it's got a kind of a musty, mildewy. Is that you?
Yep.
You're a pro.
Well, people never call me.
Yeah. So yeah, it's got a little bit of kind of a musty, mushroomy smell to it. To me, I mean, it's been sitting in a musty, mildewy basement, I have to admit. Not really mildewy, but moldy, kind of musty. Yeah. So it kind of smells like a basement. Underneath it, I'm getting kind of like a Luden's cherry, like a kind of a sweet cherry underneath it. But you do have to pick it out.
Yeah, you really do.
So let's see.
Yeah.
Tastes a lot better than it smells.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think when I taste it, I can definitely tell that it's old, but it's not. It doesn't have any offensive character about it at all. In fact, it tastes pretty good.
It reminds me, tasting this, of like an old, like steakhouse, or like like your parents' basement, or your grandparents' basement, or like sitting in like a dark, like pleather cushy booth with like a
And I think for me, this beer, it's so complex, like and it's kind of getting to your point, it's almost like a wine in the fact that it has like leather and fruit and must and some of these things that I always think about when I try wines, or you would associate with wine a lot more. I definitely get from this beer. It's good. I think it's good.
And I think what you're lacking in the nose, you certainly are. I think it, and I honestly, guys, I'm not just saying this to make myself feel better, because I was thinking about it at the time. Am I just saying this because I want it to be good? No. If this beer was undrinkable, I really wouldn't care that much. But it's a good beer. I think it also has the advantage of being aged the longest from these. Advantage, disadvantage, call it what you will. Fresh, these beers are going to be much, much more similar to each other than they are here. But in this situation, I think it works for it. I think 3 years is certainly not too long for this beer. You know, I wish that mustiness kind of didn't come through on the nose. And
I was going to say the same thing. I think the only disappointment I have is that, you know, when you sniff it, and of course that's a big part of tasting is the smell and the aroma, it is a little disappointing that it has that mustiness to it.
So I'm getting, like, you know, like leather and almost like but with the card, like the oxidation almost makes me think of like old dusty leather bound volumes, you know, because you're getting that kind of papery and also the leather, and you're getting a really nice kind of honeyed, nutty fruit from it as well. A lot going on here. I think it's excellent. I mean, you almost kind of want to I don't know, have some nice cheeses with this, some aged cheese, and really just kind of sit back and enjoy the beer. I like it a lot. I don't like it as much as the Rochefort. I just don't think you can say it's the same beer. It's really cool how the age has tacked it on. But I'm going to go a little bit lower than the Rochefort myself. I'm going to go 94 for the Westvleteren.
I'm going to keep it with the Rochefort actually, because I think the underlying beer here, I mean, it's got that complexity. The taste is really nice. Yeah. But it's the must. If it didn't have that, I think it would be really high for me. So
yeah, in fact, I'm going to go 93. I'm going to knock mine down a little bit. Yeah, so I'm going to go 95, 93, 91. Yeah, I mean, I can't speculate to what it would taste like if it didn't have this and that. You know, this beer in this condition, this is what I would rate it.
And that's what I'm doing. You know, it's just like when I taste it, I really enjoy the taste. I like the complexity. It's just the smell is a little off-putting. Yeah. There you have it.
There you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed our dissection of the Trappist Dubbel style. We certainly had fun, and we certainly have some great beer to drink. Hopefully you do too. Not quite to that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Spam?
Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to talk about was I got an email from someone who said they got an email where the name said the Beer Temple, but then when they moused over it, they noticed that the email address was actually somewhere in, I don't know, some spam email basically, and they were curious, you know, was it just kind of looking at emails he had gotten from me, or was it from the site that they somehow got his email from? I'm going to be in touch with my ISP and some other people who helped me, who helped build the site originally, to see how we can prevent that. I certainly don't want to, you know, have anyone spammed in the name of the Beer Temple. So if anybody has had that happen to them, please let me know. Hopefully, you know, it hasn't, but if so, I want to know, because I want to take that and kind of pass it along so we can prevent it. So yeah, if that's the case, just let me know.
Yeah.
Until then, keep the comments coming. Always appreciate it. But until then, why don't we pour ourselves some beer?
Make this right. Do it upright.
Yeah. And then we'll get the mail.
The mail's being delivered.
All right, guys. Till then, got some great beers to drink.
And hopefully, you do too.
Cheers.
Cut you off the pass.